Welcome back to Real Talk, the show where we sit down with real investors, doing real deals, and uncover what's actually happening in today's market. Today, I'm joined by Moody Hassan, the founder of MJY and Associates. Moody operates across Connecticut and Massachusetts, doing everything from fix and flip to wholesaling, novations, and even running a real estate brokerage. For those who do not know, Moody, can you give us a quick background of who you are and a little bit about your wholesaling journey?
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Moody Hassan. I'm 24 years old from Connecticut. A little bit about me. I mean, I started up a couple years back. I started up with family, and then we kind of switched over from family and try to scale things a little bit more. I wouldn't say I wholesale anymore. I'm more of an investor. I like to flip deals and get into the mud of things. So it's been a pleasure, really.
Amazing. And if you don't mind sharing with the audience, like how did you get into the real estate in the first place?
Real estate in itself, I got into it when my father, 7 years ago. He needed help selling our own residence back then. And what I did was just I helped him sell the property. And then he was looking to get into another property and help him go through a foreclosure, purchasing a foreclosure and renovating it and hiring the contractors. And he kind of saw there was potential there. So I kind of helped him with his processes and everything of that nature. And here we are.
Nice. That's like a pretty. So obviously you have come a long way, right? So how long was it that you actually got into the real estate market? How long have you been in this space?
So with my father, I mean, we started 7 years ago. Right, and that was kind of the beginning, but it was very surface level type of work for me. And then I went, if you want to say it, when I went full blast real estate, really was about 2.5 years ago.
Nice. And what does your operation look like right now? Like, can you tell us more about your team, the markets you're serving?
Yeah, right now I'm actually in Egypt, meeting with my cold callers and whatnot, just a game plan for next year. We're adding two more cold callers, so we're going to be up to seven cold callers. Right now we have about five,
Nice.
including our transacting coordinator. Sorry, not our transacting coordinator, our QA/QC. We have four people in house, plus myself and my partner. Right, so we have six people in the U.S. We're looking to expand there as well. Yeah, the markets I serve are realistically just Connecticut, but we do dabble in Massachusetts. Once everything gets smoothed out in Connecticut, then we're going to be looking to move into, Massachusetts heavily, right, and in New York and Florida heavily as well.
Nice. And would you say, is there any challenges, let's say, when you're based out of Egypt and then doing deals as well as businesses in the US? Would you say, is there any like challenges, especially when it comes to getting these things done?
So for me, no, not necessarily, because I live in the U.S., but I travel to Egypt, right? Because I have family down here,
Hmm.
right? So it's actually I feel like it's advantageous for someone like myself, right? Because I'm able to one, right, get a cheaper rate when it comes to cold callers, right? And be able to manage them, right, and build a connection with them. Yesterday, I don't know if you guys want to check my Instagram. Yesterday we took them out on a beautiful dinner, right,
Yeah.
in the mountains of Egypt, and we play arcade games and horseback riding and everything of that nature, right? So something like that, you're able to build a culture, right? With outside of a country is super important because that makes people want to work very hard for you and whatnot. For my cold callers, now we're the way they are. I mean, we're signing up, really intensive English classes for them. They get trained extremely well, so they can understand the market and in Connecticut and kind of the culture in Connecticut, so they can have more of a smooth conversation with the seller and really gain trust with the seller.
Mm.
Right. So it's I don't think for my case it's too harsh or for my callers it's too harsh. It's all about how are you setting things up and the conversations that you're having and just anticipating, the worst case scenario to ensure everybody's prepped for the worst case scenario.
Amazing. So, and I know that you work across like multiple exit strategies. Like you mentioned that you do fix and flips, you do wholesaling, you do innovations.
Mhm.
How do you decide which strategy to use upon a particular deal?
Yeah, that's a good question. So it really depends on what the seller needs, right, and what the price point is, right. It has to, if it's cheap and the renovations make sense, right? And in timeline is honestly timeline doesn't matter as long as it's under 6 months, right? That's fantastic. We'll take that down as a
Mhm.
flip, right? But if price point is off, or there's some kind of particular situation in their life where they need to have extra help, then we're going to look in the novation route. If it's going to be a wholesale where it's something I just don't want to take down, or the company doesn't want to take down, then we'll wholesale it out. And last but not least is on market. We also own a real estate brokerage, right? So, for example, if it's just prices unrealistic for a cash offer or innovation, then we kind of pivot to a listing route.
Amazing. And I know you have like a ton of experience, especially in the market. Like you have been exposed to the real estate market for over 7 years, actively been in the space for like 2 to 4 years. What would you say is the biggest mistake you see a lot of new wholesalers make, especially when it comes to making it in this market?
Not running their numbers correctly. Just not running their numbers correctly, right? It's overinflating their numbers, providing sellers with a number that's extremely unrealistic, pigeonholing setting their expectation for that price value, right? And then once it's being sold to someone who actually is the investor, right? It's now you're bringing them back to reality where it's like that. Well, how does that work? You know what I mean? And whatnot. So it's affecting, the real estate community because
Mhm.
now you're jumping on the phone with a lot of these sellers that had conversations in the past with wholesalers that are already set up for failure, right? With wrong expectations, and expectations just doesn't make any sense. I just got off the phone with someone in New Britain, Connecticut. That he was like, "Well, for you, I'll do 235," and I'm like, "Well, we're still night and day." Right, because I went to his property, we had coffee
Mhm.
together and everything, and he really is interested in selling. And the reason why he came up, he's like, he's like, I could sell it for 250. That's what a realtor said. I'm like, the realtor owes you no type of commitment and honesty, right?
Mhm.
They're giving you the highest number they possibly can that can be somewhat backed up with some kind of facts because you're not a real estate professional to ensure that they keep your business. He's like, well, no, I'm not going to list it with them. I told him, I was like, well, you're going to have to list it with them because they're the only ones that are telling you that's the value. He's like, I told him how many people you spoke with. And he's like, oh, well, that doesn't matter. I was like, it does. I'm like, that means that you've been actively looking to field an offer as close to yours. And he's like, well, he's like, I'm a professional as well. And I was like, I completely understand that you think you're a professional. I'm like, you're a writer, you're a poet. I'm
Mhm.
like, do you come to me for advice to how to write a book? No, right? I used to go to college and I got my degree
Yeah.
in biology, right? Do you come to me to ask me, hey, my dog has a cold, what kind of medicine do you give them? No, right? Because I'm not a vet. Right, I'm not a vegetarian, right? I'm a real estate professional. So you come to me and ask me for the value. So that's the problem here is that incompetent people and incompetent wholesalers and incompetent realtors are
Mhm.
setting an expectation to sellers that actually need the help and actually need to
Yeah.
sell. And they're not, unfortunately, not being provided with the proper consultation to ensure that they are realistic with timeline and value.
I think that's like beautifully put, Moody. And I think that's like one of the best, or let's say honest advice I think anybody should get, or let's say take into account, especially when they want to like get into this space.
Sure.
Yeah. So this
It's
is
not hard to run numbers. It's not hard to run numbers. I think we could both agree on this. It's very simple. It should take you 15 minutes maximum to run numbers on a deal. Right? Yeah, I mean, you go to homes.com, look at comparables in the area if you don't have time to really run a proper comparable analysis. Look what sold in the last 90 days on a half mile radius, right, at the same criteria as of the home, with a with a divergence of 10%, right? Put 3 to 6 together, average that out. Merry Christmas. You just have your comps, right? And then take 75% of it, 70% of it, add everything that needs to be inputted into the home, holding costs, buyers and sellers closing fees on the other side, the rehab itself, and the purchase of the home. And Merry Christmas. Now you have your maximum allowed offer. It's not rocket science.
nice. And speaking of comps, like, do you use any comping tools or let's say comping calculators, anything like that?
ChatRV is a pretty good one, right? We've been using ChatRV since ChatRV, actually since Dylan introduced me to ChatRV, like the
Mhm.
first week him and I, started working closely together. For a quick, just understanding right? It's a very good tool, right? It has a long way to go, but it's fantastic for, for on the spot goes.
Hmm.
That's one. Homes.com is super important as well for comps. I like to use Homes.com because it shows you a simple comparables, that's very, very close to what the property looks like, in the area, and you're able to use that in your discretion if you're looking for a quick comparable analysis, right? Obviously, we use ARCPR and the MLS to put together a professional CMA, and put together comparables. PropStream is also a really good one, as well. Those are the tools that I personally use. Other people use, I don't know, I think it was a Deal Machine and all these other, sources of data, but personally, I just never was interested in really diving into those.
Nice. I mean, it seems like you have like a ton of experience in this space, and I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but Chat AI is actually an affiliate part of a closer control too.
Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah.
Yeah, so we recently partnered with them, and I think you should see that one particular option called AI comping in on the dashboard on the left side. So it'll
Oh, I didn't
directly
know that.
take you to the Chat AI site.
Really? Yeah, I have them.
So I know you operate a lot in Connecticut, and a lot of news articles I've been seeing is that there's a lot of new wholesaling regulations which is coming into effect there, and in a lot of other states too. So, from your perspective as an active operator, how are these new wholesaling laws changing the way investors should approach deals, if at all?
I mean, it's forcing you to. I mean, I'm all for them. I love the fact that it's becoming more regulated, right? Because it's forcing people to have a level of or a standard, right? A set standard in place to ensure that there's some kind of ethics involved, right?
Mhm.
It's important to track and regulate these things because you have so many companies and so many nightmares with lawsuits. That's not even funny, right? By having something in place that ensures that there is some kind of order, that's fantastic, right? I'm all for it. I want more laws, you know what I mean? Because then it's like, okay, out with the out with the young, and the new, and out with the bad, right? And welcome everybody, else that's looking to actually put, a living in place, doing this stuff and ensuring that things are done correctly.
Nice. I think that's an amazing response for that. And to be honest, I'm on the same side as you because I feel like a lot of people they have created sort of there's like a couple like you can say rotten apples, especially in the wholesaling business, and they created a couple of bad names for a lot of people in general. And I think that's the same thing which I heard Connor say, Grant talked about it, William, you. I think a lot of people said the same thing. Even Trajan, I'm not sure if you're aware of these guys, but
Yeah.
they all mentioned the same thing. It's like a very few rotten apples, especially in the same market create
Mhm.
bad name for everybody in general. And I think having these regulations is pretty good, to be honest, at the end of the day.
I agree. I agree. I mean, look, it's the same thing like when the internet first came out. There was in Bitcoin and all the stuff that was NFTs, right? They weren't
Yeah.
regulated and start adding regulations, and all those scams went away, right?
Yeah.
That's why we have, that's why we're BBB certified. We have two websites that are out that are being heavily marketed, and we pour a lot of money into it because we want people to keep track of who they're talking to, and if someone in my company, God forbid, does something wrong, that we are held accountable, right, for either the good work that we've done or the bad work that we've done, right? So it's super important to keep that track record to make sure to ensure that new clients and customers that are looking to reach to use a service like ours, right? Either for us to buy in cash or for us to wholesale or for us to novate it, right? To see a track record of positive comments, and if there is negative comments, the negative comments and the solutions that we had for those negative comments to ensure those negative comments, turn into positive comments. Thank God we have no negative comments. We're known in Connecticut. We do a very good job, but it's not saying that God forbid something might happen. With scale, right? There's always one or two things that slip
Yeah.
through the crack. You know what I mean? And our job is to just make sure that we mediate and for that stuff to never happen again.
Amazing. And regarding the marketing, right? As you mentioned, you do a lot of marketing. So what would you say is your primary marketing channel right now? Are you more on the PPC side or the PPL side?
Both. PPC, well, not PPL, no, PPC and outbound.
Hmm.
Um, PPC, we spend about $12,000 per month in just ad
Wow.
spend. SM3, really good company. Really enjoy those guys, working with those guys. Shout out Joe and Jack. I do a lot outbound. I built out a system, 2.5 years ago with cold callers and whatnot, and using ready mode and everything of that nature. And then Dylan Houston is helping me on the training side of my cold callers and some of the ops side with the cold callers. So it's fantastic. So yeah, I think, but I think our cold calling is where we're heavier.
Mm-hmm.
PPC, we just started that, what, 3 months ago. It's starting to ramp up. This month was just terrible for everybody, as everybody knows. It's Christmas time.
Yeah.
But it should be picking back up next month. So I'm excited to see what's going on. But I mean, I'm definitely looking to, dive. We were just going to do some text messaging or text blasting. That didn't go too well. So we're looking to, expand into the text blasting marketing side of things on the outbound side. And, I speed to lead has always been a good thing. We really haven't invested too much into it in the last couple of months, but that's going to be something that for the New Year's we're definitely going to be looking into.
Nice. Nice. And I think at the very beginning you mentioned that you run a brokerage, right? Like a real estate
My partner and
brokerage.
I, yep, my partner and
Yeah.
I. My business
So
partner is a broker. I'm the operating partner.
nice. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, Roundtree Realty. We don't. Funny enough, we don't have a website or anything of that nature, but we should make a website. But we service all the mega landlords in Connecticut.
Mm-hmm.
Exclusively on the listing side. So we're not a buyer's agent whatsoever. We do help buyers, don't get me wrong, right? We have our connections and whatnot. It makes it a lot easier. But we really service all majority of all the mega landlords in Connecticut, and we sell their properties that we need to sell. Uh, I think, man, before I left Egypt, we had 42 properties that were on market. 73% of them before I left were already locked up under a contract and in the due diligence or the closing phase. So yeah, we're doing pretty well.
Nice. And I think you've covered almost everything for us. And I think just towards the end, would you maybe like share one piece of advice for someone who just want to get into the real estate space? Something maybe they should look out for. I know a lot of people, they make a ton of mistakes, especially in this game. And it takes like what, like 6 to 8 months for just for them to figure out, you know what, this is the right way to do it. Maybe something so that they can erase that particular line of path and then maybe get a help them, which can maybe help them get a quick deal in the very beginning itself.
Reach out to me. No, I'm joking. But no, on a serious note, it's like just start, right? First part of it would be just start, right? A lot of people get stuck in the planning phase, right?
Mm.
And that's where dreams really tend to die, right? Sometimes you have to have I don't know if I could use this, but Dion, tell me if I can, but you just have to have a fuck it mentality. Just fuck it.
Yeah,
Let me just get started.
that's
Do you want me to switch that out, or you want me to use something else, or are you okay with that?
no,
But
I
you
think it's
okay
the
with that?
mentality. I think like a lot of people they quit a lot. Like
Yeah.
one thing I heard, especially when it comes to a lot of wholesale, even clients are close control too. Okay, so I have like heard. Okay, you know what? I just got into wholesaling, man. I spent a huge amount of money marketing. Now I need a CRM.
Mm-hmm.
And in the first 2 to 3 months, I don't know, maybe they have not done it properly. Maybe have they not done the diligence or anything. They just get into it just with the hype of getting into it. And the guys who end up quitting are the guys who run out of money from marketing. I mean, at the
Mm-hmm.
end of the day, we are a CRM, right? I mean, we cannot help you on the marketing side, but then what we can do is just help you with the leads. But
Right.
if you have not budgeted things properly, if you have not planned out on things properly, we do see a couple of clients like that come in and go. And
Yeah.
it's something which I've seen a lot.
So, that's the thing, right? It's like my advice to that is like don't spend too much money on marketing, right? I mean, like the more like the if when I say like fuck it, get started, right? It's super important to look into okay, scripts, contracts, your sales skills, walking around, you don't even have to drive. If you don't have a car, you don't even have to drive. Walk around and look at properties, distressed properties, search them up on, you could look them up on PropStream if you have them like for PropStream. If you don't, you can look it up at True People Search or Free People Search and find those phone numbers and emails. Those are pretty accurate. You can reach out to those individuals there and strike your first deal. I mean, my first deal ever, when I wasn't working with my father and just kind of doing it on my own, it's a pretty interesting one. It literally happened from Instagram. I posted on Instagram, like, and one of my friends who was a contractor goes like, "Oh yeah, maybe I actually have someone that's interested in selling." And I made $50,000 in the first 3 months. off that deal. So it's not, everybody's like, oh, they have shiny objects on them, or they want to just spend a ton of money into marketing and they're gone. No, set up yourself for success, make some revenue, use as little money as possible, build out a CRM or get in touch with my guys at Closer Control, and have access to a very, very, very good CRM. Hire some cold callers, pay them $2,500 an hour to $3 an hour, throw them a script, that you can build, or look it up in chat GBT and find a script. It's stuff can be done for free and stuff can be done for cheap and can be very effective, right? And I think money needs to be saved until there is reoccurring revenue. Like I didn't really get into a CRM, right,
Mhm.
for the first year, right, of doing business. It was all Excel sheets,
Yeah.
all Excel sheets and formulas, right? It was the ugliest thing ever. It was colored in different ways. This was blue, this was green. We had a glossary because we had so many colors, right? We had so many formulas, but it worked. You know what I mean? Because I was like, I don't need a CRM. I need to focus my money on other things, hire more cold
True.
callers, get more of a system in place, right? So when I say fuck it, right, and just get started on your systems and make sure that your systems are operating functionally, right, before you start getting those bells and whistles.
True. I think that's one of the best advice I've ever heard, Moody. And it's true. Like, obviously, not everybody who just starts, they don't need a CRM at that point. What they need is they need to figure out what exactly is the best system they want to put in place, the best way to manage their budget, and to also develop their skills. And obviously, even we never push out CRMs too. Like, we are like, you know what? If you have a ton of leads and if you're not able to manage all of them properly, that's
Mm,
when you need a CRM, not before that. And
correct.
I think, Moody, this has been amazing. For anyone listening who wants to maybe connect with you, follow your journey, or even possibly work with you, what would you say is the best way to reach out to you?
Either my Instagram or my phone number, 203-631-3666. Or you can reach me on my Instagram at Hassan M9598. Just reach out to me. My email also is mhassan at sell2mjy.com. The number two is in between sell and MJY. Everybody mistakes that sometimes. I put TWO and I'm like, but yeah, reach out to me either those three platforms, and if there's any way I can help, I'm always like to be of service.
Amazing. And I'll make sure to put your information in the video itself. And Moody, I think this has been amazing session. You shared a ton of value, and I know the audience is going to take a lot from this. So if you guys are watching and want to learn more about wholesaling, innovations, and how real investors are actually doing deals in today's market, make sure to tune in next week for another episode of Real Talk. With that, we'll see you. Have a great day.